Hey guys, myself Ankita. Today in this video we shall see another problem on LeetCode, a medium level problem, 3 sum. So let's see the question. Given an integer array nums, return given an integer array nums, so they are given a array called nums, return all the triplets where nums of I, comma nums of j and nums of k, such that I is not equal to j, I is not equal to k, and j is not equal to k, and nums of I plus nums of j plus nums of k equal to 0. So what does this mean? I is not equal to j, I is not equal to k, and j is not equal to k. Overall, that condition would be like I should not be equal to j, and what I told I should not be equal to k. So that together, what we can tell is I not equal to j, not equal to k. Sorry, if I not equal to j and I not equal to k, that means j should not be equal to k. So that's what written here. Hence, in total, I should not be equal to j should not be equal to k. What does it mean actually? That means if an array is given 1 minus 1 comma 0 minus 1 comma 0 comma 1, 2 minus 1 4, 2 minus 1 and 4, oh, sorry, minus 4, fine. So any three numbers, if you take this is minus 1 and minus 1, 0 and 1. So if you add this minus 1 plus 0 plus 1, that will sum up to 0. So that's what they have told you. Nums of I plus nums of j plus nums of k equal to 0. That should sum up to 0, and I should not be equal to j should not be equal to k. That means you should not take the same element thrice, because if you take 0 as 0 plus 0 plus 0, that will sum up to 0. But that is not allowed. Or if you perform any other thing like minus 1 1 then 0, that is okay. Any element you should not take it twice. You have to take different elements of the array, and those three elements you have to take three unique elements of the array, and those three unique elements should add up to 0. So that's what the problem is. Note that the solution must not contain duplicate triplets. So what does it mean? So if you take this example only, if you take this example, okay, sorry, yeah. If you take this example, you can see minus 1, 0, 1, minus 1 plus 0 plus 1. That will sum up to 0, right? Again, you if you take this minus 1, 0 and this minus 1, no, sorry. So minus 1, 0, 1, that sum up to 0. Then again you take 0, 1 here and this minus 1. Instead of this minus 1, you take this minus 1. So 0 plus 1 minus 1. That would also sum up to 0. But actually what both the elements what you have taken combination, different combination of elements from the array, they're summing up to 0. But the elements in these combinations are same. This should not be done because while returning once you will take minus 1 comma 0 comma 1, one array, another one 0 1 minus 1, including both these combinations in the resultant array. This is not allowed. You have to return only one of them. So that's what they have told here. Notice that a solution must not contain duplicate triplets. So how do you solve this problem? So they told one condition is I should not be equal to j should not be equal to. That means it's nothing but you have to take different elements of the array, three elements, three different elements of the array, and that should sum up to 0. That is one condition. One more condition is whatever if summing up to 0 is, you have to make sure that that combination of elements, which three combination of elements you have taken, that should not be previously taken. So that is one thing you have to notice here. And one more thing, if the tool notice that the order of the output and the order of the triplets does not matter. So Maybe because if you see another combination here, one is nothing but minus 1, 0, 1. Another one is 0, 1, minus 1. The other combination would be minus 1, then 2, then minus 1. So if you take minus 1 plus 2 plus minus 1, that would give you minus 1 plus 2 minus 1. So minus 1 plus 2 is 1. Minus 1 is 30.0. So that's the combination. So but while returning, here you can see minus 1, 0, 1 and 0, 1, minus 1. You will not return both. You will return either of them. And minus 1, 2, minus 1. Minus 1, 2, minus 1. That is minus 1, 1 has been written. So notice that the order of the output. So you can either return first this, later this combination, or first this combination, later this combination. And the order of the elements inside this combination also doesn't matter. Only thing is you have to return the correct ones, and there should not contain any duplicates in the combinations present. So if you see the output, that output will be nothing but a list of list, a list inside list, because you can see the function is returning a list integer, that is list present inside the list. So if you have the outer list, so one sublist would contain minus 1, 0, 1. So minus 1, 0, 1, one list. And other list will be minus 1, minus 1, 2. So a list inside a list. So that is one thing you have to focus. So fine. Now let's see how do we solve this problem. Okay. Well, let me take the same example. I'll just move down. Fine. So the given array, that is nothing but nums, right? Equal to minus 1, 0, 1, minus 1, then 0, then 1. After that, 2, minus 1 and 4. Minus 1, minus 4. So since they have told you should not take any duplicate elements in the what, resultant list. So what we have to perform in the beginning is the sorting of the array. That you have the inbuilt function in the Java, that is implement arrays dot sort of which array? Of the nums array. So first, at first you'll perform the sorting of the array. So sorting of the array will what it would give you from the ascending order, right? So the lowest element is minus 4. If you observe, so it would give you minus 4, then minus 1, minus 1. So minus 1, minus 1. After 0 is the element, then 1 and 2. So why are we performing this? To remove the duplicates. So that easily we can find out the duplicates, right, in this case. Here, if you want to find the duplicates, you have to iterate over the array, you have to check whether each element equal to the element. But here in this case, you just need to check the front or back position, that's it. That only will, if minus 1 is present here, you have to check whether the next element to this minus 1 or the previous element was minus 1 or not. So if you find out that, that itself suffices the condition to check whether there is a duplicate element present in the array or not. So that is one thing you'll perform. Another thing is you have to iterate over each element in the array. Of course, one int I equal to 0 is must. So a for loop with int I equal to 0 is must. And will iterate, that I will iterate till I lesser than nums dot length minus 2. So all of you might have the question, why is it nums dot length minus 2? That I will explain clearly. So what we are actually doing here is, if you have the array like this, so one I will be pointing here. For the remaining elements, one I will pointing to the first element, and j will pointing to the I plus 1th element, and k will be pointing to the last element. So this is where we require, because since I is pointing here, and two more pointers we have that will be pointing to the I plus 1th element and the last element. That means if you just imagine that minus 4, minus 1, minus 1, 0, 1, and 2. So if I is pointing to this, sorry, to this zeroth element here, if I is pointing here, then j will pointing to I plus 1, then k will pointing to last element. So at last, two position you have to leave. That's the reason why we are iterating till I nums not length minus 2. And why do we require these two pointers? That also I'll explain now. So at first I will be pointing here, right? Now uh, j will be pointing here and k will be pointing in the last element as is told. So if I is pointing at some position, j will be pointing to I plus 1 position and k will point in the last position. Now we have to check whether some nums of I plus nums of j plus nums of k equal to 0. So minus 4 minus 1 2, minus 4 minus 1 plus 2. How much does it sum up to? Minus 4 minus 1 minus 5 plus 2, that would give you 3. So is it equal to 0? No, this is not equal to 0. But sorry, this is nothing but minus 3. Yeah. But one thing we have observed is this is a negative value, right? What? So if we have got a negative value, what does it indicate? We have to increase the value so that it will. We should get sum equal to 0. So that means we have to increment the j pointer. We have to increment the j pointer so that the negative value should get decreased. The value of the element should get increased. That's why you will increment the j pointer. What if the sum becomes greater than 0? Imagine sum equal to 2 you have got. That means you have to decrease the value so that you should get the value 0, right? You should find out the value where all the sum of the three elements will be equal to 0. That means in that case you have to decrement the k point. Understood? So if you get the negative value, that means you have to increase the value of this. You have to add plus 3 to this to get sum equal to 0. That means since array is in sorted format, you have to increment the value of the j so that we'll get a lower negative value, means a bigger positive value kind of thing, so that we'll get sum equal to 0. If you get greater than 0 as a sum, that is if 2, 3, anything it may be, that means you have to decrease the value of, you have to decrement the value minus 2 for this, so that that sum will be equal to 0. So if you want to decrement the value of this positive thing, that means you have to decrement the value of the k, so that instead of adding 2, you will add 1, you will add 0 later. So that's how you manipulate things. What if the sum equal to 0? If sum equal to 0, you just need to add that nums of I, nums of j, nums of k, nums of I, nums of j, and nums of k. That will be added as arrays.list. Arrays.list. So this will be added as arrays.list inside the list. So initially you have to declare a list integer that will contain list inside a list equal to something list and new array list of what no normal whatever format the new list should be declared. So inside this new list, inside the list, we add this thing. If sum equal to 0. If sum is greater than 0, then you have to decrement the value of the k. As I told, we have to, because you have to decrease the value so that that sum should be equal to 0. Because you are getting, since getting a larger value greater than 0. If it is negative, that means you have to add more values to that. That means you have to increment the j value so that lesser negative value you should be added to that so that it will sum up to 0. So I'll trace this problem properly. This is the logic one thing happened. And one more thing what we have to check is, uh, if you observe here, if I just observe here, imagine, okay, j is now pointing here and k is here pointing here, right? So one thing what I have to observe here, this minus 1 are same. So how do we neglect this duplicate? So to neglect this duplicate, what we do is, like if j is pointing here, imagine. Then you have to check whether uh, the nums of j is equal to nums of j minus 1. If this nums of j is equal to nums of j minus 1, then you just need to increment the value of j. That means you're ignoring the j. You should not calculate anything over there. Any nums of I plus nums of j plus nums of k equal to 0 or not. You should not check itself. And similarly, that applies for k as well. If k is pointing here, if nums of k, I'll just write here, is equal to nums of k plus 1. Why k plus 1? That's the previous value because we are k value will be starting from the end of the array and j will be starting from the beginning of the array. So j is incrementing. You have to check j and j minus 1 previous value here. Here k ka previous value is k plus 1, right? Because we are seeing the end of the loop array. You check whether nums of k equal to nums of k plus 1. If in case they are equal, that means you have to again neglect the value of the k. But how do you neglect the pointer? The pointer should point instead of here pointing here, it should point here. That is nothing but k minus minus. So this one thing you have to check. And the same condition you have to check for I as well. So for checking I, same thing you have to apply. If nums of I equal to nums of I minus 1. Why I minus 1? You're starting I pointer from the start of that. So if I minus 1 and equal nums of I, then again you just neglect the value of I. I mean, you can give it as continue or I plus plus. Anything is fine. So these because since you here while you are we giving continuous, we'll be using for loop. We can't give I plus plus. But here in this case, we'll be using while loop for j and k. These two pointers. That's why we can give j plus plus and k plus plus. But for I, we'll give just continue because we are using for loop. In for loop, that itself automatically performs the I plus plus thing. So you just need to give the continue statement. And yeah, now I'll code this and I'll trace the problem with an example so that you'll get better understand the problem. So at first, let's initialize a list. So list list of integer, let's name it as list equal to new array list of. So we initialized declared a list of integer and is containing a list inside the list array list. Okay. So once this is done, now we have to perform the sorting of the array first. So num arrays dot sort of what? Which array? Nums array. So once sorting is done, now good for I for int I equal to 0, I lesser than. Till what value I have to iterate the array? I minus I lesser than nums dot length minus 2. Why minus 2? Because we'll be having other two pointers j and k that will be pointing while j is pointing to I plus 1. If I is pointing here, then j is pointing I plus 1 and k will point to the end of that. So that's why you have to leave space for those two pointers. So you are iterating till I lesser than nums dot length minus 2, then I plus plus. So in this you have to check if uh, at first I is pointing to zeros, there is no option of duplicates, no question of duplicates itself, right? Once I equal to 1, you have to check for duplicates. If I nums of I equal nums of I minus 1. So if I greater than 0, so once I greater than 0, for I 0, I equal to 0, you does not check for the duplicate condition. Once I greater than 0, then you have to check. Once I is greater than 0, and one more thing is, and yeah, nums of I. If if I is greater than 0, then you have to check for duplicate. So here you check nums of I equal to nums of I minus 1. If that is equal, then what you'll have to perform is continue. Just write it as continue. So this is for skipping the duplicates. So nothing to worry here. Why are we giving I greater than 0 condition? That is because for I equal to 0, you need to check for duplicate. That's the very first element you will be checking. So once I greater than 0 becomes, then we have to check for the previous element because that array will be sorted array. Here, this is not a sorted array. No? Here you will be sorting the array. So by the time you sort the array, all the duplicates will be either back or front to the given element, right? Position, position or front position to the given element. So there you have to check whether nums of I is equal to nums of I minus 1. If that is equal, then you just need to continue. But you can't give I plus plus because you are using the for loop. That's the case. So that's one condition you have to handle. Now, if nums of I is not equal to nums of I minus 1, then you have to consider that element for the iteration because there where you will be initializing new pointers j, where j will be pointing to int j equal to I plus 1 and int k equal to nums dot length minus 1. So if I equal to 0 pointing here, then j will, for the remaining array, where j will start from I plus 1 and k will be pointing to the last element. There's two conditions done. So once this is done, now while j lesser than k, till j lesser than k, because that what iterating j till the end of the array doesn't make sense because we have one more k pointer that will pointing to the end of the array, right? So both we have to handle. So till j lesser than k, now you have to check if nums of I less nums of j less nums of k. Okay, so you can initialize it to sum. One will declare a new variable in sum equal to sums of I plus sums of j plus sums of k. Then you have to check if sum equal to 0. What if the sum is equal to 0? If sum equal to 0, then you have to add that to the resultant array list, right? So how do we add? You have to add this as a list inside the list. So that's why you give list dot add of arrays dot. How do we add? Arrays dot as list. We have to add this elements as a list. So we are giving as list of what? Which elements? Nums of I, comma, nums of j, comma, nums of k. So while j lesser than k, why j lesser than k we are doing? Because k is pointing to the end of the array and j will point to I plus 1 position. But somewhere the both will coincide. That's, there you have to stop the while loop. So that's where j less than k comes in. So in sum equal to 0, you have to check whether sum I j k is equal to 0 because if I is pointing here, j is pointing here, k is pointing here. So minus 1 plus 0 plus minus 4, that will give you minus y. If minus y equal to sum, if it is equal to 0, just in case, then you have to add that elements as a list to the array list. So how do we add? So list dot add for the array list you are adding it. How? As a arrays dot split. As a list you are adding these elements into the array. That will give you minus 1, 2. So yeah, once it is added, now again, how we have checked for the duplicates? Again, you have to check for the duplicates here also. Um, yeah, here once you got to know like these elements are what summing up to 0, you have to increment the value of the j, and for k you have to decrement the value of the k. It should come backward, j should come forward. So you perform j plus plus k plus plus. One thing we have to add here, yeah, here as I said, again you have to check whether until. So for duplicate this is while record while j lesser than k and nums of j is equal to nums of j minus 1. If j is pointing here, let's check nums of j minus 1 whether they are equal. If they are equal, then that means that's a duplicate, right? In that case, you have to increment j plus plus again. So until j lesser than k and k, and nums of j is equal to nums of j minus 1. So if it's in sorted array, both minus 1 are present here, then you have to increment if minus 1 is present here and minus 1 is present here, and nums of j will be equal to nums of j minus 1. In that case, you have to skip this minus 1 here. How to increment the value of j. Similarly for k also, while j lesser than k and nums of k is equal to nums of k plus 1. Why plus 1? Because k is starting from here. So if you move k minus minus, here should be k minus minus. You have to check whether nums of k is equal to nums of k plus 1. If that is equal, then you have to skip that k. That means you have to again perform k minus minus. So these are for duplicate checking. After this is performing. This is if sum equal to 0. If sum is lesser than 0, else if sum lesser than 0, then what you have to perform? If sum is lesser than 0, that means you have to go out, you have got some negative value. That means you have to increment the value so that that should sum up to 0, right? If there is minus 2, you have to add plus 2 so that it should become 0. So you have to decrease the value of the negative. It will be from negative to positive. So in that case, j plus plus you have to perform. J plus plus. If else condition what will come, if sum greater than 0, then you have to perform k minus minus. That k value should be decremented so that sum will be equal to 0. So these things, at last you have to return the list. We will run this. Okay, this L should be capital. We'll submit this. Yeah, it's been successfully submitted. Now what I'll perform is I'll trace this example, this code with an example so that we'll have a proper idea of what is happening inside this. So I'll take this example only. Okay. Uh, yeah, we'll take the same example now. I just pasted the code here, so it's easier to trace. So the array will be equal to nothing but minus 1 0 1 minus 1 0, then 1, then 2 minus 1 4, 2 minus 1 4 minus 4. So at first what we'll perform, we will declare a new array list called list, that will contain list inside a list, right? So initially it will be empty. Here you will sort the nums array. So after sorting this array, you will get minus 4, then minus 1, 0, 1 and 2. So once you sort the nums array, now you go inside the formula. So int I equal to 0, I will be 0 initially. And this condition won't suffice because I is equal to 0, it's not greater than 0. Now j will be, if I is pointing here, then j should be pointing I plus 1 position. So j equal to 1 and k equal to nums dot length minus 1. What is nums dot length minus 1? And I should be less than nums dot length minus 2. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 minus 2, 4. So I should be less than 4. And k is equal to nums dot length minus 1. That is nothing but 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So k is pointing at the length of the array. So now start with the loop. While j lesser than k, so j is nothing but 1. 1 lesser than 5. Yes, it is. Now we have to perform the sum. So sum equal to nums of I. So nums of 0, that is minus 4. Nums of 1, minus 1. And nums of 5 plus nums of 5, that is 2. So it's giving you minus 4 minus 4. Minus 4 minus 1, that is minus 5 plus 2, that is giving you minus 3. So check whether sum is equal to 0. No. Whether sum is less than 0. Yes, it is. Because minus. So in that case, you perform j plus plus. So j will be 2 now. Why are we performing j plus plus? Because since we have got the sum as negative, we have to increase the value so that that should sum up to 0. So that's why you are incrementing the value of j. So now instead of j pointing in, j will point here. Now again you have to check j lesser than k, 2 lesser than 5. Uh, yes, it is. So again, you check where you find out the sum. So sum will be equal to nums of I, that is 0 minus 4, nums of j, nums of 2, that is minus 1. Uh, Minus 1 again, and nums of k is plus 2. That is again summing up to minus 0. Since again this is negative, you increment the j value. J will be 3 now. So whether 3 lesser than 5, this condition you check. 3 lesser than 5, yes it is. So once 3 lesser than 5, again you find out the sum. If I do like this, okay. Sum equal to nums of I, that is 0 or minus 4, nums of 0, plus nums of j is nums of 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. J is pointing here, that is nothing but 0 itself, plus nums of k, that is 2. So that would give you sum as minus 2. So since it is lesser than 0, again you increment the value of j. So j will be nothing but 4. So 4 less than 5, you check. Yes, it is. Again, you find the sum. So nums of sum equal to nums of 0, that is nothing but minus 4. Nums of j, so j will point here now, that is 1, plus 2. Nums of k. Um, so minus 4 plus 1, minus 3, plus 2, that will give you minus 3 plus 2, minus 1. Again, that sum is lesser than 0. Again, you increment the value of j. So j equal to 5 now. Is 5 less than 5? No. So you just get out of the while loop. Now what? Now in the second condition, again you have to increment the value of I. So I will be 1 now. So will I equal to 1. So yeah, I will be equal to 1. So for this I equal to 0 minus 4 and all other combination of the elements in the remaining elements in the array, you have not got any sum equal to 0. Now you check I equal to 1. So this element is cancelled now. I equal to 1. So j will pointing to I plus 1 and k will pointing to end of the array. So j equal to 0, 1, 2 and k is equal to nums dot length minus 1, I less than 4. Yeah, I is less than 4. That is 5. So again you find the sum. Well, j less than 5, 2 less than 5, yes it is. So sum equal to nums of I, that is nothing but minus 4, minus 1, plus nums of j, nums of 2 is nothing but minus 1 again. Oh yeah, minus 1, plus nums of k is nothing but 2. So minus 1, minus 1, minus 2, plus 2, that will give you sum equal to 0. So now we have got sum equal to 0, this condition. So in the if sum equal to 0, you have to add that combination of elements as a list. Nums of I, comma j, comma k equal to as a list into this list. So the resultant list would become list of it's what contain it's containing a list containing these elements minus 1 comma minus 1 comma 2. So one element it's containing now. And now once you got to know sum equal to 0, increment the value of j and k. So j will be equal to 3 now and k will be k minus minus. Means j will point to the next element and k will be increment k minus minus. So k will be 4 now. Once you have this, now you have to check for the duplicates whether incremented j and incremented k are same value as the previous value of the j and k corresponding. So you have to check whether j less than k. Yes, j is less than k. 3 is less than 4. It's correct. And nums of j is equal to j minus 1. So nums of j is how much? 0 now. Is it equal to j minus 1? Minus 1? No, they are not equal. 0 is not equal to minus 1. So that is fine. This loop will not happen. Here you have to check j less than k, 3 less than 4, yeah. And nums of k equal to nums of k plus 1. So nums of k is 1. 1 is equal to 2. No, they are not equal. So this loop also will not happen. That means presently we have not found any duplicates. So once this is done, now again you go inside the loop. So now j less than k, yeah, 3 less than 4, you have to find the sum. So sum will be equal to nums of I. So nums of I is nothing but 1, that is minus 1, plus nums of j, that is 0, plus nums of k is 1. So what is it summing to? 0. That means if this is summing to 0, you have to add these combination of elements as a list to the resultant array. So we have to create one more list inside here that is containing elements minus 1, comma 0, comma 1. Nums of I, comma nums of j, comma nums of k. So the array list is containing two list elements, sublists in the list. So that's what we have to return. So once this is done, now again you have to increment the value of j. So j will become nothing but 4 now, and k will become k minus minus, that is 3. Now you have to check whether j is lesser than or equal to k. Is j lesser than or equal to k? Lesser than k? No. So this condition will not happen. Again here also j is not less than k. This also will not happen. Now you have to go to the while loop. Whether j less than k. Is it less than k? No. So you just come out of the while loop as well. Now you increment the value of I again. So I will be 2 in the next iteration. Um, okay. So I equal to 2. So for I equal to 2, we'll take the same example, right? Minus 4, minus 1, minus 1, 0, 1, comma 0, 1, 2. So I is pointing here. So if I is pointing here, then j will point to the next element and k will point to the end of that. So j will be equal to 3 and k is equal to 5. And I should be less than nums dot length minus 2. So I should be less than 4. Is 2 less than 4? Yes, it is. Now again you find the sum. Now, okay, here you have to while condition 3 less than 5. Yes, it is. So you have to check sum equal to nums of 2 minus 1 plus 0 minus 1 plus 0 plus 2. So that will give you 1. If this is giving 1, that means it's a else part come, right? It's greater than 0. So in that case, you have to k minus minus because you have to lesser the value of the k such that it should sum up to 0. So, so k minus minus k will be 4 now. So once it's done, again j less than k, you have to check for the condition. So j equal to 3, 3 less than 4, yes it is. Again find the sum. Minus 1 plus 0 plus 1. So yeah, is it equal to 0? Uh, okay, one thing we have mistaken is we didn't check this condition. When we increment the value of I is pointing here, right? You have to check I is greater than 0 and nums of I is equal nums of I minus 1. Both are equal, right? So you have to skip this I condition actually. But we have performed. So this is wrong. We need not to perform this since nums of I is nums of 2, that is minus 1, is equal nums of I minus 1, that is nums of 1. So we just need to continue. That means this is not required. So this is how you make the mistake usually. So this should not be done. Because since we got again 0 for the same combination of elements we got previously, I got doubt how can it be possible. Now later I got to know this is a problem that we performed. So just skip this. Okay. Since I nums of I is equal nums of I minus 1, you continue. That means I will be incremented again. So I will be equal to 3 now. So instead of I pointing here, I will be pointing here. So this is I. So j will be here and k will be here. J equal to 4 and k equal to 5. Now we have to uh, check whether nums of I is greater than 0. Yes, it is. And nums of I is equal to nums of I minus 1. 0 equal to minus 1? No, they are not equal. Now we have to go inside the while loop. Well, j less than k, 4 less than 5. Yes. So find sum. So sum equal to how much? 0 plus 1 plus 2. That would give you 3. So of course it's greater than 0. That means you have to decrement the value of the k. So now k equal to k minus minus. K will be pointing here. So k will be equal to 4. Now whether you check 4 less than 4? No, they are not. While condition. So you just go out of the while loop and increment the value of I equal to 4. And now you check whether I lesser than start length, there is nothing but 4. Is 4 less than 4? No. 4 is not less than 4. Again, you come up to the while loop. So finally, the list would be containing what the resultant list was there previously, unique with the unique element. I hope you guys have understood the problem. If you have any notes, please drop it in the comment section. So the basic logic is nothing but at first we will be sorting the array. So once you sort the array, you consider each element in the array, and for that one pointer will point to each element in the array. Then for the remaining elements, you'll have two pointers. One will be pointing to the I plus 1 position, and other will be pointing to the end of the array. There you check for the combination of the elements and find the combination of elements with the list such that sum up to 0. Yeah, please subscribe to the channel and we'll come up with another video in the next session. If you have any doubts, please drop it in the comment section. Thank you.